It should have died 100 times. It was rusted, beaten, retired, and forgotten. Yet somehow, the 1974 Dodge Monaco, known as the Bluesmobile, refused to go quietly. On screen, it outran police cruisers, flew off bridges, drifted through a shopping mall, and survived stunts that would destroy any real car. Off-screen, it broke world records, nearly bankrupted the production, and turned into one of Hollywood's strangest legends. What makes this battered ex-police cruiser so iconic? Why did the filmmakers choose a car that most people in the 70s didn't even look at twice? And how did it end up becoming a cultural symbol that fans still rebuild, restore, and worship more than 40 years later? Today, we're diving into the unbelievable, the bizarre, and the downright impossible stories behind the one car that simply would not die. These are 20 weird facts about the Bluesmobile, the 1974 Dodge Monaco that refused to die. Number 20. Why they chose the 1974 Monaco. When the crew began searching for the Bluesmobile, they didn't want a pretty car. They wanted something that looked like a worn-out police cruiser but could still take a beating. The 1974 Dodge Monaco became the perfect candidate. Its retired police fleet versions came with a heavy-duty suspension, upgraded cooling, bigger brakes, and the famous 440 cubic inch Pursuit engine. These cars were fast, cheap, and everywhere in Chicago at the time. The 1975 Monaco had a weaker setup due to new emission laws, so the filmmakers specifically hunted down the 1974 model. It wasn't about style. It wasn't about fan appeal. It was simply the toughest, fastest disposable cop car they could buy in bulk. Ironically, this practical decision turned a forgotten police sedan into one of Hollywood's most iconic movie cars. Number 19. Fastest police car joke explained. In the film, Elwood casually claims the Monaco is the fastest police car in Chicago. Most viewers assumed it was just a funny throwaway line, but car enthusiasts know the joke cuts deeper. The 1974 Monaco, equipped with the 440 Pursuit package, was genuinely one of the quickest police vehicles of its era. With around 250-280 horsepower after emission adjustments and a torque curve built for pursuit driving, it could outrun many personal cars on the road. Officers who drove them back in the day often described them as surprisingly violent for a family sedan. So when Elwood delivers the line with a straight face, the humor comes from the fact that the car looks absolutely terrible, rusty, mismatched paint, falling apart. Yet under all that ugliness is a legitimately fast machine. The line wasn't random. It was a wink to real cops who knew exactly what these cars were capable of. Number 18. A true Frankenstein parts car. One of the strangest truths behind the Bluesmobile is that no two cars used in filming were the same. The production team mixed and matched parts from junkyards, police auctions, and donor vehicles to keep the fleet running. Doors from one car went onto another. A hood from a wrecked cruiser was bolted onto a hero car. Interior panels, wiring harnesses, dashboards, and even entire subframes were swapped freely. By the time filming ended, each Bluesmobile was a unique Frankenstein machine stitched together from whatever parts the crew could find. This chaotic approach wasn't artistic. It was survival. The film's stunts were so destructive that cars broke faster than the crew could repair them. Creating hybrid Monacos was the only way to finish the movie. This explains why fans restoring Bluesmobiles always notice odd inconsistencies, from mismatched headlights to incorrect trim pieces. Those quirks aren't mistakes. They're part of the car's DNA. Number 17. 13 cars played Bluesmobile. One of the biggest surprises for new fans is discovering that the Bluesmobile wasn't just one car. It was 13. The production purchased a full fleet of retired Dodge Monaco police sedans, so each one could serve a different purpose during filming. A few were hero cars used for close-up shots and dialogue scenes. Others were stunt cars, often modified to sacrifice themselves in high-speed crashes. Some were reinforced versions designed for jumps, heavy impacts, or scenes where the frame had to take abuse far beyond factory limits. There were even cars set up strictly for towing rigs and camera mounting. Every vehicle had its own job, its own quirks, and its own scars. When fans study behind-the-scenes photos, they often notice small differences: different wheels, different mirrors, mismatched trim, or slightly altered body lines. These inconsistencies aren't continuity errors. They're the result of juggling an entire fleet of Monacos trying to play one single character, the Bluesmobile. Number 16. Special high-speed stunt version. Among the 13 Bluesmobiles, one stood out as the Speed Demon. This particular Monaco was selected and tuned specifically for high-speed shots that required the car to accelerate harder and track straighter than a normal police sedan. The crew adjusted the carburation, ignition timing, and even swapped in a healthier transmission from a donor car to make sure it could survive wide-open throttle runs. It was used for scenes where the Bluesmobile rockets down highways, outruns police cruisers, or performs long tracking shots that needed perfect stability. While the movie exaggerates how fast the car could truly go, this special unit genuinely outperformed the rest of the fleet. It wasn't supercharged or Hollywood modified. It was simply the best mechanical example they had, carefully tweaked to look stock while delivering maximum speed. Ironically, the audience never knew which scenes featured the fast one, but stunt coordinators swear it was the smoothest and most reliable Bluesmobile on set. Number 15. Overbuilt suspension for big jumps. If there was one part of the Bluesmobile that took more punishment than anything else, it was the suspension. The stunt team knew the Monaco would be thrown off bridges, slammed into curbs, and forced into jumps no factory sedan was ever meant to survive. So they rebuilt the suspension systems on several cars using heavier-duty springs, reinforced control arms, upgraded shocks, and in some cases, welded bracing to prevent the chassis from folding on impact. These modifications weren't designed for comfort. They were built for brutal, bone-shaking crashes. Even with all these upgrades, many of the stunt cars still bent frames, snapped axles, or blew out shocks after a big landing. The fact that any of them survived multiple jumps is a miracle in itself. This overbuilt suspension is the reason the Bluesmobile could perform some of the most absurd stunts in the movie without instantly disintegrating on camera. Number 14. Fake engine sound in every scene. One of the most surprising truths about the Bluesmobile is that the legendary roar you hear in the movie doesn't come from the real car at all. The 1974 Dodge Monaco was powerful for its time, but its actual exhaust note was far too quiet and mellow to match the film's chaotic energy. So the sound team recorded a much more aggressive V8, layered multiple engine tracks together, and exaggerated every shift, rev, and burnout to create the monster engine sound fans now recognize instantly. The audio is so over the top that it sometimes suggests horsepower the real Monaco could never produce. But that was the point. The Bluesmobile wasn't meant to sound realistic. It was meant to sound mythic, larger than life. Ironically, the fake audio helped turn the Bluesmobile into a cultural icon, proving that sometimes the most unforgettable parts of a movie car don't come from the car itself, but from the illusion built around it. Number 13. Interior stripped for camera rigs. To capture the frantic, chaotic style of the Blues Brothers, the crew needed interior shots that felt raw and immersive. But the inside of a Dodge Monaco wasn't exactly spacious, so the production team removed dashboards, seats, door panels, and even floor sections from certain cars to create room for bulky 35mm cameras, operators, and lighting equipment. These camera rig cars looked normal from the outside, but inside, they resembled a bare metal cage with wires everywhere. Some cars even had miniature platforms or bolted steel mounts, so the camera could sit just inches from the actors' faces while still remaining stable during violent driving scenes. These stripped interiors also reduced weight, which helped the cars accelerate slightly faster, although the team always joked that the missing parts didn't make up for the strain caused by hauling all the film equipment. These Frankenstein interior setups gave the movie its gritty, close-up driving style that fans still love today. Number 12. Chases filmed at illegal speeds. The Blues Brothers is famous for its outrageous chase sequences, but few viewers realize just how dangerously fast some of them were shot. Several high-speed scenes were filmed on real Chicago streets with minimal closure time, forcing the stunt team to push the Monacos far beyond legal speed limits. According to crew members, some shots of the Bluesmobile blasting down Lower Wacker Drive or weaving through downtown traffic reached speeds well over 100 mph. Police officers assisting the production repeatedly warned the filmmakers that certain stunts technically violated city regulations. But the crew pushed ahead anyway due to tight schedules and the need for genuine chaos on camera. In a few instances, they had to cut and reset scenes quickly before real traffic caught up. Today, safety standards would never allow such reckless filming. But back in 1980, it was the Wild West of stunt driving, and the Bluesmobile was at the center of it. Number 11. Rooftop fall done with models. One of the strangest and most memorable scenes in the Blues Brothers is the moment when the Bluesmobile falls from an absurd height after the Nazis drive it off a parking garage. The drop looks so ridiculous that many modern viewers assume it was early CGI, but it wasn't. CGI didn't exist yet. Instead, the crew built detailed miniature models of the garage, the surrounding buildings, and the falling cars. These miniatures were dropped from a rig that allowed them to fall perfectly straight, giving the illusion of a real car plummeting through the air. The sound department then exaggerated the fall with echoing wind and comedic impact noises to complete the effect. It's intentionally unrealistic, borderline cartoon logic, but that's exactly why the scene became iconic. The combination of practical miniatures and over-the-top editing created a stunt so bizarre and memorable that even decades later, fans still argue about how it was done. Number 10. Wild Nazi chase stunt history. The infamous Nazi chase through Chicago is often cited by stunt coordinators as one of the most unhinged car sequences ever filmed. The production shut down major sections of downtown, employed dozens of stunt drivers, and coordinated a vehicular chaos scene that would be nearly impossible to approve today. Cars slid across intersections, smashed through barriers, and executed close proximity maneuvers at frightening speeds. Several takes ran so dangerously close to uncontrolled traffic that city police monitoring the shoot were reportedly sweating bullets. The final pileup, where dozens of cruisers collide in a twisted mountain of metal, was choreographed like a demolition ballet. Every crash had to be timed precisely to avoid serious injuries, yet still look wildly out of control. For the stunt world, the Nazi chase became a benchmark in organized chaos, a sequence so ambitious and reckless that it's still studied today. It wasn't just a stunt. It was an event, one that pushed the boundaries of what a car chase could be in Hollywood. Number 9. Impossible acceleration shots faked. Throughout the film, the Bluesmobile performs bursts of acceleration that seem physically impossible for a worn-out 1974 Dodge Monaco, even one with a police package V8. To achieve these exaggerated speed shots, the crew used a combination of clever camera tricks. Low camera angles made the car look faster. Undercranked footage increased motion speed without requiring dangerous driving. In some shots, the roads were deliberately cleared to give the illusion of rapid overtaking. The stunt team even waxed sections of pavement to reduce traction, helping the tires break loose more easily for dramatic burnouts. The result was a car that appeared to leap forward with supernatural force, almost like it had hidden horsepower the audience couldn't see. These illusions weren't meant to be realistic. They were meant to build the myth of the Bluesmobile as a machine that refused to obey the physical limits of the real world. And somehow, the audience embraced the exaggeration completely. Number 8. Real mall destroyed during filming. One of the most unbelievable stunts in the Blues Brothers is the mall chase, because it wasn't a set and it wasn't CGI. It was a real, fully abandoned shopping mall that the production team temporarily brought back to life just to destroy it. They installed working storefront signs, filled shelves with fake merchandise, cleaned the floors, and even repaired broken lights so the building looked operational again. Then, they unleashed stunt drivers to plow through kiosks, crash into displays, and drift around escalators like the mall was a giant playground. The crew had to reinforce several parts of the interior so the Monacos wouldn't collapse structural elements when hitting obstacles. Even then, the stunt drivers managed to break more than the production expected. The result is one of the most chaotic and joyful car chases in cinema history. A scene where real walls, real windows, and real floors were sacrificed for the sake of pure automotive anarchy. Number 7. Strange camera mounts for chaos. To create the signature chaotic look of the car chases, the camera team mounted film rigs in places no sane production would normally consider. They bolted cameras onto bumpers, wedged them into wheel wells, strapped them to fenders, and even mounted them inches off the pavement to exaggerate speed. One setup involved placing a heavy 35mm camera directly behind the front grille, giving the audience a frantic point-of-impact perspective. Another rig hung off the door at such an extreme angle that stunt drivers joked it could scrape the asphalt at any moment. These unconventional mounts shook violently during stunts, producing the jittery, frantic footage that became part of the movie's identity. Modern stabilizers would have smoothed the chaos out, but that raw, unstable energy is exactly why the film feels so alive. The camera work didn't just capture the action, it amplified it. Number 6. Record-breaking car destruction count. When the Blues Brothers premiered, it instantly became infamous for breaking the world record for most cars destroyed in a single movie. More than 100 vehicles were wrecked, police cruisers, civilian sedans, and multiple Bluesmobiles, often in massive pileups that looked too outrageous to be real. The production bought retired police cars by the dozen because they knew the script demanded constant destruction. Some days, the crew ran out of drivable cars and had to rebuild wrecks overnight just to keep shooting. The final police pileup scene required so many stunt drivers that they had to recruit off-duty officers and professional demolition derby drivers. The record stood for years until studios with far bigger budgets tried to surpass it. But even then, few films matched the raw, chaotic charm of the Blues Brothers crashes. It wasn't destruction for spectacle. It was destruction as comedy, timing, and personality. And nobody did it with more style. Number 5. Junk cars bought for spare parts. The Bluesmobile was so demanding on the vehicles used during production that the crew quickly realized they would burn through parts faster than they could repair them. Dodge Monacos from the early 70s were already aging fleet cars, and finding good components wasn't easy. To keep up with the relentless pace of filming, the production began buying entire junked Monacos, sometimes in terrible condition, just to strip them for usable pieces. They harvested brake assemblies, rear axles, dashboards, wiring, and even small trim items that most people would overlook. Some donor cars never even rolled off the tow truck before the crew began tearing into them. This cannibal fleet kept the Bluesmobiles alive long enough to finish filming. Ironically, many restored Bluesmobiles today still rely on odd, mismatched parts because enthusiasts face the same problem. The supply of original Monaco components is scarce. The movie didn't just depict chaos, it created a real-world parts shortage that still affects restorers decades later. Number 4. Stunts caused real crew injuries. The intensity of the stunts in the Blues Brothers didn't come without consequences. Several members of the stunt team and crew suffered injuries during the more extreme sequences. Some were minor, sprains, bruises, burns from overheated equipment, but a few were more serious. A stunt driver fractured ribs during a high-impact crash when the reinforced frame still buckled harder than expected. A camera operator was shaken badly when a rig-mounted Monaco hit a curb and jolted the equipment violently. Even trained professionals underestimated how chaotic the filming environment could become. Safety standards in 1980 were far looser than they are today, and the production often pushed right up to the line of what was considered acceptable. Despite the risks, the crew remained dedicated, driven by a mix of adrenaline, ambition, and the desire to create something unforgettable. Their sacrifices contributed directly to the raw, uncontrolled energy that made the film's car scenes legendary. Number 3. Fans rebuild Bluesmobiles nationwide. Long after the film was released, the Bluesmobile refused to fade into history. Across the United States, car enthusiasts began restoring, rebuilding, and even completely replicating the 1974 Dodge Monaco to keep the legend alive. Some restorers hunt down ex-police Monacos that match the film car's specifications, while others build replicas using whatever donor cars they can find. Many fan-made Bluesmobiles appear at car shows, parades, charity events, and even weddings. Some owners go all in, adding the iconic roof-mounted speaker, mismatched primer paint, and the worn-out interior look seen in the movie. Others restore their cars to immaculate condition, treating them like sacred Hollywood artifacts. The community surrounding the Bluesmobile is surprisingly large, so large that parts suppliers have begun reproducing certain trim pieces specifically to support fan restorations. More than 40 years later, the Bluesmobile isn't just a movie prop. It's a living subculture kept alive by passion, nostalgia, and pure automotive dedication. Number 2. Surviving originals kept as treasures. Out of the 13 Monacos used during filming, only a small handful survived. Most were wrecked during stunts, cannibalized for parts, or left in unusable condition after the movie wrapped. The few remaining examples became instantly valuable to collectors and museums. One of the best-known survivors resides at Universal Studios Hollywood, where it has been displayed for decades as part of their studio tour. Another is owned by a private collector who maintains it in drivable condition, taking it out only for special events or Blues Brothers anniversaries. These cars aren't restored to perfection. Many of them still wear dents, mismatched panels, and faded paint, because that authenticity is part of their appeal. Fans don't want a shiny, flawless Monaco. They want the Bluesmobile, with every scar telling a story. After so many years, the surviving originals have become cultural artifacts, protected and cherished like relics from a bygone era of wild, no-rules filmmaking. Number 1. Bluesmobile became an immortal icon. More than 4 decades after the Blues Brothers first hit theaters, the Bluesmobile remains one of the most recognizable movie cars ever created. It isn't sleek, exotic, or expensive, yet it became iconic precisely because of its flaws. The rust, the primer patches, the mismatched parts, the wheezing exhaust, and the unstoppable attitude. The car embodied the spirit of the film, absurd, chaotic, rebellious, and strangely lovable. Over time, it evolved into a cultural symbol. It appears on posters, t-shirts, model kits, memes, parades, car shows, and even pop culture references in other films and TV series. Its image instantly triggers nostalgia for a wilder, less polished era of filmmaking. Many movie cars fade away with time, but the Bluesmobile gained immortality because fans connected with it emotionally. It was the underdog that refused to die, and in the hearts of millions, it never will. For most movie cars, their story ends when the cameras stop rolling. But the Bluesmobile was never just a prop. It was a symbol of chaos, grit, and ridiculous determination. It broke frames, shattered axles, destroyed entire fleets of police cars, and somehow, it still lives on. The 13 Monacos that once carried the Blues Brothers across Chicago have long since scattered, but the legend they created continues to grow. Every replica built, every fan gathering, every nod in pop culture keeps the Bluesmobile alive, refusing to let it fade like so many forgotten movie machines. In an era where everything is polished and calculated, the Bluesmobile reminds us of a wilder time when filmmakers took risks and cars became characters. Some cars are remembered. This one became immortal. If you want more deep dive stories about the legendary machines of film and TV, tell me which car we should uncover next. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next ride.